Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jodi Harrison Bauer, and I am so happy to have you join me for this episode. If you are new to the show, this is the show where we educate you, empower you with that education, maybe entertain you a little bit, and inspire you to live your most fearlessly authentic life. And today's guest is Chris Davids. He has this incredible Instagram account called Evolved by Chris. I started following him while I was going through my divorce journey. And he just gives you so much information, educates us, and really breaks everything down. There's no fluff, there's no BS. It's information we all need to hear. And I've just learned so much from following him that I needed to have him on the show. And I am just so excited for everything that he's going to share with us today. So I wanted to tell you who this amazing man is. Chris is a lifelong student of both science and human spirit. Over a 9-year academic career, he received 3 advanced degrees. Over an 18-year career, he treated more than 200,000 patients. This has allowed him to understand human relationships and needs through a holistic lens. During his 14-year marriage, Chris raised 2 biological boys and a 1-year-old girl whose biological father had passed away. This has profoundly shaped his understanding of love, compassion, safety, and fatherhood. Throughout those years, Chris also bred Olympic-level dressage horses on his ranches, developing a deep appreciation for intuition, trust, and non-verbal communication. After his divorce in 2018 and stepping away from his practice in 2021, Chris began a new chapter of healing and self-discovery. He found peace and purpose in training dogs, a pursuit that reconnected him to his natural ability to create trust and safety through presence, patience, and empathy. That experience became the bridge to his true calling, relationship and life coaching, where he now integrates decades of academic, clinical, and personal experiences in his coaching program. Today, Chris helps others evolve into secure, grounded, authentic versions of themselves, capable of leading, loving, and living with clarity, integrity, and purpose. His work is rooted in emotional intelligence, nervous system awareness, and the belief that true healing begins with understanding ourselves. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Glad you're here. Finally, it took a few months. All right, so we're going to just get right into the meat of it and everything that you talk about on your Instagram, because that's how I found you. And then I just found myself scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I thought, wow, he's talking about everything that I've gone through, that I think I've healed from. And I think that there are so many women throwing out terminology that maybe we don't understand fully. And I think it's unfair to us to do that until we fully understand what that word means. Because there are a lot of, the word narcissist is thrown around all the time. I'm sure that drives you crazy
It
because,
absolutely does. Yeah, 100%.
there's a difference. I know that I was married to an egomaniac, and I know I was
Right.
married to a covert narcissist. Like, there's very different people.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, why do so many women mistake anxiety for chemistry?
Ooh, that's a really good question, actually, because the feeling of anxiety, typically when I ask women specifically, when you have a feeling of anxiety, where do you feel it first? And it's usually in the stomach, like a drop in the stomach. Secondarily is chest, throat, but primarily it comes from this area. Yeah, it feels a lot like butterflies. Physiologically, anxiety and the feelings of love are, there's a two-pronged question. But the feeling of love is one where you get a flushed face, you get increased blood to your visceral organs. So you shunt blood away from your extremities to the center. You get increased heart rate, increased breathing rate. All of these things like tingling maybe in the hands, probably due to the endorphins and the cortisol flying through your system, maybe a little bit of adrenaline. All of this is resonant of the same feelings that love gives you. The flushed face, change in hormone profile. That's number one. Number two, our attachment is related to what we feel is familiar from past experiences. Right. And our attachments is downloaded. It's the base coding. It's our base operating system from when we were young. So how we perceive love and attachment, the people we are attached to, which is primarily our parents when we're young, and then our partner as we age, when your attachment, the feeling of safety or the perceived feeling of safety or familiarity from if that's anxiety from childhood, or if that is an avoidant or an anxious feeling that you're getting from how your parents interacted with you, that's what's familiar. That's what you think your nervous system, your body, you deserve. So when you go into adulthood, whatever is familiar, that feeling that you had from your childhood, if it's not secure, will remind you of what attachment feels like. And that is oftentimes anxiety.
So if you have a parent
Mm,
that was avoidant with their feelings, kind of brushed it off, or wasn't available to you emotionally,
mm.
you've attached yourself to that style of what a relationship should be. And does that normally mean that you are going to look for that same style because it's familiar in your relationships?
So there's a nuance here. So
Okay.
that avoidance can come, the avoidance as from a parent is typically with a child is typically resonant of a parent that maybe has some addiction issues, so alcohol, drugs, who has some maybe depression, so withdrawal as a result of that. Maybe if they're avoidant, they're put into work, hobbies, interests, anything that's not related to the family. Okay. And if they are present, and I hear this a lot, people will swear up and down, I had no trauma. My childhood was fine.
I
So,
used to think that.
right. But these are the same people where I say, okay, that's cool. Like, congratulations. It sounds nice. Like, yeah, we had a normal mom and dad. We're married. So then we go along and they give me their whole childhood from like 5 to 16 in 3 minutes, not even 2 minutes. Like, well, I don't remember a lot. Like there was no fights. We had, it was never really anything bad. It was just, we kind of always had family around. And then when I question them about emotional attunement, how did your parents show up emotionally? Their emotional memory, there's four main aspects of memory: episodic, procedural, semantic, and emotional. The avoidant person lacks emotional memory. They're strong in episodic. They remember Disneyland trips, things, but there's no emotion associated with those times. So they lack big gaps in their childhood, which is
That
really interesting.
I can totally relate to that.
Right. Yeah. Semantic memory would be like, this is a phone, this is a chair. That's semantic. Procedural is you don't have to think about how to drive a car, you just do it. Episodic is, I remember Disneyland, I remember camping trips, I remember Christmas. But within that, if there's no emotional collaboration with parents, if there's no attunement, if the parents weren't there to comfort you and co-regulate you, which is the most important type of regulation, co-regulation, as an adult or a child, you learn to regulate yourself by how your parents teach you to navigate emotions when you're young. This is when you're the four core emotions: joy, sad, anger, fear. They should be there equally for all three of those, or all four, sorry. Oftentimes, parents are there when there's joy, because when you're happy, they say, you win the award, you win the game, you get an A, whatever it is. They're like, yeah, 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 yeah. But all the other three emotions, they're kind of like, yeah, you deal with that, leave them be, don't bother them. They pride you on taking care of your own emotions. Oh, you're so grown up for your age, kind of a mentality. Like they foster independence. They're not there to emotionally engage with you. So that memory doesn't exist, emotional memory. If it does, it's very small. The memories they do have is spending time alone in their room, maybe with friends, but the attachment isn't there. So they learn as an adult, I can't rely on anybody to co-regulate my emotional state. I'm the only one that can take care of it. And that becomes an avoidant individual.
Wow.
Mm,
Mic drop, mind blown.
mm,
Wow. As you're saying all of these things,
mm,
everything is going through my mind. Like, I don't know, it was crazy as you were talking, and I was thinking about like what my relationship was with my parents and the men that I've
mm,
chosen to be with, and even friends, because this relates to
mm.
friendships as well. And
It can, yeah.
I also think, this is just my opinion, with friends, with coworkers, it can seep into those other areas, I think, if you really don't have an idea of who you are, why you are. But the thing that really I heard loud and clear, and you talk about it all the time, is how a parent communicated and regulated themselves.
Mm,
So then we as children learn to regulate ourselves based on the way we watched our parents regulate themselves or the way
yeah.
they regulated us. Which one is it?
It's a combination of both.
Oh,
So you see, so how we as children realize what healthy is. Children learn. Children learn by doing. Children learn by observing. Children learn by feeling. right? So when they observe the parental relationship, or if they're observing a divorce and then observing new parental relationships that may be healthy or unhealthy, that's what they see and perceive as, okay, that's normal. That's how people react. That's how they act. That's how one shuts down, one chases. One's a people pleaser, the other one's a narcissist, whatever it is, whatever dynamic they observe, they say, okay, well, that's normal. So the kids just imagine just sitting there watching, okay, all right. So that's what I'm supposed to do. They're not saying that, but their nervous system is registering this as what is perceived to be normal. And then number two, how the parent interacts and regulates. If you think, they've done some really interesting studies where you have a child who's like 6 months old, and if you've got a baby, when the baby kind of fusses and cries, you're there to kind of appease the child. If the child's happy, you're like, okay, joining in, making it giggle even more, tickling it. If it's hungry, you're feeding it. And the kid's emotions typically settle and they stabilize based on the presence of the mother. Well, if all of a sudden the child's kind of fussing or wants something and you just kind of sit there completely apathetic and ignore the child, it's really interesting. The child will all of a sudden start to make more noise and then protest, trying to get the parents. And then if it doesn't, all of a sudden the child will just sort of turn inward and just sort of like, I guess I got to take care of this on my own. How the parent interacts with the child will determine what the child feels it has to do with its emotions. That translates into adulthood and how you interact and how you perceive, how you will interact, how you will give emotion, and what you are supposed to receive back from emotion within a romantic partner. It's primarily attachment. And there is a little confusion. People like, well, I have good friendships. I have good partnerships with people at work. I'm like, yeah, but you're not intimate with them. And I've had people argue, I have intimate relationships with my friends. I'm like, no, unless you're having sex with all your friends, you don't, right? Unless you have emotional intimacy and deep vulnerability on a level that other people just don't have access to, that you do with a partner. And if you've been married, it's just different, right? So the biggest attachment comes into play with your romantic partner. When it comes to friends, an avoidant person will typically, not oftentimes, they compartmentalize their life. And I hear this a lot with clients. Well, they'll say, I just don't really talk about my personal life a lot. I kind of keep everything close to myself. It's like it's no one else's problem. I don't want people to know my business. They have relationships, but a little more superficial. This is resonant of male and female. So it's a little bit different, but the avoidant attachment can leak into friendships as well, for sure.
Is it, I'm bouncing over here because of just what you said. I
Yeah.
have a million questions for you. Is it a red flag? And I'm sorry if I'm using that word. Is it something we should be aware of if we meet somebody, a potential lover
Yeah.
that doesn't have any friends or
Right.
has one friend?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I always tell people, like when I'm coaching people, you should have three people regardless. You should have a coach, a counselor, and or a close friend as someone who are your confidants, people that you can go to because you don't want to leak your energy in a relationship. So number one, you should have at least three people that you're talking to regularly. Friend groups, and as we age, and maybe I'm certainly the same, the more you get to know yourself and the more time, the less FOMO you get, fear of missing out.
Oh,
The,
yeah.
the more you just enjoy your own time, hopefully the more secure you become. Your friend circle does tighten up, but you should absolutely have anywhere from 2 to 4 friends, at least 2 to 3 that you have some sort of camaraderie with. And it's really common, particularly with men, I think more than women, where men just sort of isolate. They become the lone wolf. This becomes
Yes.
really unhealthy mentally. It
Yes.
really does. That
Yes.
sense of alienation, independence, like I don't really need anybody. It fosters this independent feeling and the lack of ability to regulate with other people. Not that you're dependent on them, but the ability that you can let other people into your life and they're not a threat to your autonomy, independence, or security, or that you can trust them, etc.
And do you think that lone wolf mentality leads to possibly not the healthiest relationships because you don't know how to be vulnerable? And
I
that
don't
was
think the
something from
lone
your
wolf
childhood? Okay.
leads to it. I think the lone wolf is a side effect of the person who has a difficult time fostering healthy relationships.
I
The
see.
lone wolf is a symptom of someone who has difficulty. And this could be the excuse, well, I don't have time. I'm working too much. There's always an excuse. What's more of an issue is not necessarily if the person doesn't have friends. Maybe I moved to a new city. I didn't know a single person in this city. I had no friends at the beginning. So that was situationally appropriate, right? It's the excuse behind it. So I don't have friends because I work all the time. It's like, okay, well, why do you work all the time? Right? Or I don't have time between my hobbies, my dog that's sick. And trust me, I've had avoidant people say, I have a sick dog. I cannot be in a relationship. It's like it's nuts, right? It's like pick an excuse, but these are all reasons to validate why you can't get close to anybody. That's the real problem. Not that they don't have friends, but why don't they have friends that are
Yeah,
close? At least a couple people that they're close with.
that makes sense. So I'm the mother of two daughters. They're 36 and 32. And I had them at 28 and 32. And I think to myself, man, oh man, if I could go back and do it all over again, the things that I would change. So as a mom now, I really try to teach them things
Mm,
that I've learned the hard way and that I've learned by, you know, your Instagram, by reading, by being very self-aware and being super honest with myself. Because
mm,
for the longest time, I did think I had a great childhood, right? And it
mm,
wasn't until my mom passed in 2021, my dad passed in 2010, that I started being honest with those things. But it took me until I was 61 years old. And so for everybody listening right now, don't wait until you're 61. For me, it seemed like the right time, but I also think we didn't talk about these things then, and it's not an excuse, but it is what it was back then
mm,
in the 70s. And we just didn't talk about those things. The parent didn't think about, you know, they never thought, well, I shouldn't spank my kid or I shouldn't slap my kid across the face because she was
mm,
disrespectful. I got slapped across the face a few times for not
mm,
being the most respectful, but I was the
mm.
people pleaser child. So,
Right.
but I don't want to really get into that right now. I just
Yeah, yeah,
wanted to
different
say
discussion.
that
Yeah.
for anybody listening right now, like we did the best that we can, but we can do better. We can always do better. And I think it's
Mm,
listening to podcasts like this with experts like you to really take the time to sit back and say, hey, maybe this is why I do this. Maybe this
mm,
is why I'm in relationship after relationship, or I'm not in a relationship. What
right.
is it that's stopping me? Because I talk about this all the time because we all want to be loved and we all
Sure.
want to love another person. This is
Yeah.
just how we're
Well,
wired.
yeah, I tell people like, fundamentally they say that there's your three core needs, food, shelter, clothing. I disagree. I put connection in there, right? Babies will have failure to thrive syndrome. So if a baby isn't have physical contact, if it doesn't have connection when they will die. So it is an absolute human necessity. So anyone that says I don't like connection, I don't, this is a protective coping mechanism. It's physiologically unhealthy. Okay. So there are four basic human needs: food, shelter, clothing, connection. That's how I see it. And when you're, and just to draw back on the point when you're saying about the attachment and who people pick when they're adults, it is oftentimes you don't become the parent. And this is a bit of a misconception. Like if a parent, one of them was an alcoholic or one of them had whatever, some instability issues, whatever it was, oftentimes the kids will try their hardest to not be what the parent is. But because that's what's downloaded into you as far as what feels familiar, guess who you pick as a partner when you're older?
Mhm.
You pick what feels familiar.
Mhm.
So although you won't become the mom or dad that had the substance issues or whatever it was, or abusive, you will see that that is familiar in somebody else. Because of course, no one leads with, "Hey, I have substance issues," or "I'm going to be physically abusive. Nice to meet you." But whatever it is that when you start to see the subtle cues of familiarity from a childhood that existed decades ago, your body says, "This is familiar. This is exciting. I have a hinge of anxiety and I like it, not intellectually, but physiologically." And those are the people you pick. You marry your parents because they
Yeah,
give
I've
you,
been married twice,
right,
and I married my mother first and my father second.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
okay,
get them both
like,
out of the way.
yeah.
Here's the thing, just to wrap up the last thing you said with your, talking about the parents, you did the best you could. And that's absolutely true. Working with clients and working on attachment, it is never to, demonize the parents or victimize yourself. Like I don't do anything. That's why on my Instagram, I don't talk about polarizing topics. It's about owning who you are by drawing awareness to how you got here. And I mean, parents did the best they could. No kid realistically is secure when they're a teenager. You got to figure that stuff out, right? All parents are going to make a child inadvertently a little anxious, a little avoidant. I mean, that's life. Security is a journey, and it's kind of no one's ever going to say I'm 100% secure, right? It's a progress. That's like saying I have a growth mindset. It's not like, hey, I'm done. I don't need a growth mindset anymore. I'm growthed. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
just like it's a journey. And just
yeah.
to understand and draw awareness to that, which starts from where did it come from? And that oftentimes, and I've had the conversation with my parents, it often starts there, saying, like, I just want to talk about this. It's not like I don't need you guys to defend yourselves or anything. I just need to tell you how what happened impacted me. I'm just trying to heal it on my own, not your responsibility. Maybe there needs to be boundaries. Maybe there needs to be some rules of engagement with parents or family members, but that just helps you heal on your own.
I think that's important. Thank you for adding that.
You know?
So, how does the nervous system impact attraction? So, if our nervous system, you mentioned it, but if we can delve into it a little bit more, like if you're getting all excited, is
Mm.
it because it makes you anxious or is it chemistry? Like which one? How do we know how to differentiate?
This is something I've actually, and Jillian Turecki made a post on this the other day. You know, Jillian, she's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I follow her.
Yeah. Yeah. And she made a post on, and I get a lot of back pressure from women in my comment section when I make comments or say something related to love is a choice. Okay. Not a feeling. And I'll be curious what you feel on this. And Julian was the same thing. Jillian, sorry, said the same thing. She's like, love is a choice, right? It is not a feeling. It's when people inadvertently or unconsciously or consciously, because they don't know necessarily and they don't have the experience with what love and feelings are or understand their attachment style, they tether love to a feeling. And then when the feeling goes away, they think, well, I don't love the partner. I need to end the relationship. So when you're looking at your attachment, when you're looking at meeting somebody, when I'm coaching women particularly, I literally get them to hold back their feelings. Because if your feelings, if the chemistry get in the way, the dopamine, the oxytocin, all of the endorphins, all the feel good hormones, if that will cloud your mentality, particularly as a woman, because women, you lead with your feelings first. Once they're processed, then you think and you make a decision. So it becomes dangerous because men know this, either consciously or subconsciously. So they will play into the feelings. And it confuses women because the dismissive avoidant, and I hear this from women all the time, she will say, well, he had all of the feelings at the beginning and then they went away. Sound familiar?
Oh yeah,
Right. And I correct women and I say, no, no. He said the feelings.
you
He
did.
didn't feel the feelings. So to you, it's real. To him, he's saying them. So if you're leading without, and then when you feel things, the brain kind of turns off. You bypass that prefrontal cortex. You're not making conscious decisions. You're just running from a state of, I like how this feels. And people will convince themselves if it feels right, it's right. If it doesn't feel right, it's wrong. Even when they're in, I see this a lot with primarily women in marriages where they're like, I lost the feeling for my husband. I now need to have an affair. Or because I don't have feelings and I have feelings for this guy and he makes me feel so good. So it must be right. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily a healthy thing to do. So I get women to hold back the feelings and observe what the man's actions actually are, because that's what actually matters. Because a man will say, I feel I'm so connected to you. And I had a woman actually recently, she met a guy long distance within a week of hanging out. He's like, I want you to be my girlfriend. And I said, whoa, that's real quick. And she loved it because he was like everything that she wanted was cool, attraction. He was like successful, all the stuff. They got along really well. I'm like, this is great. He wasn't giving me any red flags that I had to draw to her attention, except the early boyfriend thing. I'm like, well, that's way early.
Yeah.
They met online. And she's like, I'm offline. I told him that I'm offline now. I'm not on the app. I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, should I bring it up with him? I said, absolutely not. She's like, well, how come? I'm like, because he told you he wants to be his girlfriend. So now if he goes back home and he's online again, that's a lack of integrity. There's a disconnect there, right? So I'm like, let him show you. So don't think about your feelings. Think about the actions that he actually shows you. So if you're focusing too much on this, you'll forget and you'll kind of dissociate from what you see. And this is why when we go back, and you can probably say the same thing, if you were to know what you know now and go back to when you met your husband, what would you do differently? What would you observe? What did you see that would have been a major red flag now that you should have paid attention to back then? And emotions will cloud that.
Right. No, it's so I see it with especially younger girls. I think that
Mm.
with like my second marriage, I saw a lot of things and just thought I can deal with this.
Yeah.
That's another thing, right? I can deal with this.
That's a whole other topic. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, whole So he lacks a little integrity. I like a guy who lacks a little integrity. Like, what the hell? Like, that ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I can't
Right.
have somebody say they're going to do all these things. He was good like this, but not
Yeah.
in the actions. So when I'm
Yeah.
talking to my younger friends or reminding myself about somebody that maybe I met,
Mhm.
well, what has he shown me? And
Right.
even like I moved away a year and a half ago to a new place too.
Mhm.
And that was the turning point. His actions showed me nothing. And then another thing was my friends. Who are the friends who showed me they were there for me?
Right.
So when I remind myself that, well, why do I still want to learn more about this person? That's bullshit, Jody. You don't want to learn more about them because their actions have freaking shown you they don't give a shit about you. It's
Yeah.
actions over everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And the words don't mean a whole lot. And I use this a lot. Like someone, you can talk about your three core values, which is usually where I start with the client. What are your core values? Okay. What do you base who you are on? How do you live your life?
Mhm.
Kindness is a common one with women. Honesty is common as well. So, but you can't tell me you're honest, right? You can't tell me you're kind. How do I know if it's true or not? Right? You only know you're kind. I only know you're kind if you are put in an opportunity where someone challenges your kindness level and you have to react in a kind way. I only know you're loyal if you're put in a situation where that loyalty is compromised or challenged and you have to prove you're loyal. So a man can only say he is emotionally available and ready for commitment when there's been enough time where you ask for commitment and he has to give it. Which means as a woman, you cannot lend your emotional state to a man and give him full emotional availability until he's proven that he has earned that privilege. And I had a conversation with a woman yesterday, successful woman, kids, divorced, all this stuff. And I told her because she is a people pleaser, her career is one where she has to show up emotionally for people, and she's very good at it. It's a superpower. My direction to her was, you have to not be emotionally attuned to the men and available to them until they lead you with the emotional availability first. And very challenging for her. And I'm like, he hasn't earned that right.
Story of my life too. Yeah, I'm in a business where I help women get fit and healthy.
Yeah.
Like I care more than they do sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that could be very draining. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that's a great, such a great point.
Well, because the risk is if you're that emotional tether for a man, someone who, and the avoidant person they like the anxious person. They like a woman who has empathy. They like a woman who is emotionally attuned. And a lot of people miss this point. They like those people that are drawn to the anxious, empathic, emotionally attractive woman because that's what they want. They don't have that. They desire to be that more than anything. So they will use you as an emotional anchor. And then as soon as they get that fix and they fear the realness of it, then they disconnect. But you've already gone all in emotionally. And it's not that you have to disconnect and be like a jerk of a woman, stone cold Steve Austin. It's not like that. It's just that you have to let him lead. You respond, and as a female and living in your feminine, is you show up present, and the man has to hold space for you. They create the container for you to exist in, and until he's creating an emotional container for you to sit in and express yourself emotionally, you don't just free flowing Wild West throw your emotions all around and give him what men want more than anything. And that's not sex. Men want connection. They want compassion. They want acceptance, even when they are not the best version of who they are. They want to be accepted more than anything of who they are, not who they can be. And men want emotional attunement. That's what we want from women. If you're giving us those things for free right away, we've got to work much less hard to show that we are worth receiving that from you.
So do you think that's where the biggest lack of alignment is in so many relationships? Is that
100%.
women want to give so much because we are such emotional creatures
Yeah.
and natural nurturers, and men are not so much. Like exactly the way you explained it.
Yeah.
Like we give so much before they even have hold that container for us.
Right. This is boundaries. Boundaries are, you do this, it makes me feel this. This is what I am going to do if it continues. I am going to hold back my emotional attunement to you until you show up in a way that encourages and allows me to open up emotionally to you. And early in relationship, if a woman goes all in emotionally, the avoidant person is going to get overwhelmed. They're going to run. The anxious guy is going to be like, this is awesome. I can now control her and say that there are boundaries, but they're actually control, because he knows he's got you emotionally. The narcissistic person's absolutely going to love it because they're going to love bomb you, and as soon as you're emotionally engaged, they're going to pull it back and it disappears. You're emotionally hooked into them, and they're like, now I'm going to disconnect from you, you're going to beg for me back, now I've got control. It is a no-win scenario when a woman leads too much emotionally. And again, you need to be, and it's more of a dance emotionally. You let the man lead first, which is why I'm a huge fan of going real slow in relationships at the beginning. It is a marathon. And the number one reason why women do not find secure men isn't because they don't come across them a lot, because they do. 60% of the population is secure. Granted, most secure men and women are in healthy relationships already. And the women kind of like, Chai, where are all the secure men? I'm like, well, they're the same place where all the secure women are. They're in relationships.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Women assume just because they're not in relationship that they're the only ones that are secure. I'm like, it's kind of a two-way street here. Sorry.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, but because the secure people don't stay. When someone is anxious and chasing them, they're going to be like, listen, here's a boundary. You deal with that. And then a secure person, if they come in contact with someone that's secure and is what they want, alignment in life, they're getting in a relationship. An anxious person is over here figuring their stuff out. If the secure person was with an avoidant and the avoidant is disconnecting them, but like, you know what, you do your own thing. The door's open, but I'm not standing here. If you come back, which the avoidant typically does, I might be with someone else. And oftentimes they are. So the secure people find relationships quickly. The avoidant and the anxious person, guess what they feel the anxious or the secure person feels like? You probably know the answer to this. What does a secure man make you feel?
A secure man is going to make me feel safe.
You would think, but what
I
is
would
safe?
think, but then
You've
I
never
would find
felt it.
him boring.
There you go. If you
And
don't know
so
what
that was
safe
my next
feels like,
question.
safe is not exciting. I was
No.
married to a grandiose narcissist for 14 years. It was
Yeah.
amazing. There was good years. There absolutely were. And I did my stuff, she did her stuff, but fundamentally a narcissist. The grandiose ones are the ones who are like, they're better. I didn't realize you could be spiritually degraded. I was really interesting. But long story short, the boredom part was really interesting. And even so, a narcissist will say this as well as someone who's anxious. And so my ex, being the narcissist, literally told me, and I remember this conversation so many times, and I never understood it. She says, I refuse to have one of those boring marriages. She's like, where people just do their daily thing and they just live their life. Those people never have sex. They hate each other. It's not going to last. I will never have that type of a relationship. I remember looking at her thinking, we've got a great freaking life. Like we always had great sex, like right to the very end. So I'm like, well, that's not the issue. And I'm like, we kind of like, we don't really have a reason to fight. Like, what is it that you're wanting that's not boring here? And I couldn't understand it, right? But she came from a past that was very chaotic, childhood, her ex, all this kind of stuff. And looking back now, like that was a monster red flag. So the secure man isn't going to be bored, okay, or boring. He can be very adventurous. He can want to do the trips and go on the things. But when women say he doesn't feel right, there's no chemistry, he's boring, it's that he doesn't resonate the emotional chaos that she is used to receiving in her nervous system. The unpredictability, anxiety is the fear or of the unknown. It's
Right.
the lack of the predictability of a future event, whether that is today, tomorrow, or an hour from now. And if you don't know if your partner's going to stick around after the next fight, you sure as hell are going to have anxiety. If you don't know if your partner's going to come home and yell at you because you talked to the grocery clerk at the grocery store because he was a male, you might have some anxiety, right?
Mhm.
There's no stability, there's no predictability there with the anxious or the avoidant person, right? But this is resonant of what you think is exciting, nervous system wise. You know
Yeah.
mentally that it's toxic.
Oh,
Physiologically, it's a different story.
yeah. And I remember looking at all my friends when I was in my 30s and thinking, oh my God, their husband like is so boring.
Right.
And I thought, oh, maybe I need a boring husband. Maybe I really need a boring husband. I thought this second husband was a boring husband until I realized
Right.
he was a covert narcissist, which I had never met in my entire life, even though I don't want to put labels on it. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's there's so much to like look at here. There's so much because relationships are
So
so
complex.
complex. But do you think that we get too much in the weeds about relationships, or do you think that this is something we should really break down?
It's not, that's not a simple answer.
I know.
It really is appropriate. And Esther Perel is huge on this, right? And I agree. Like I'm a fan of Matthew Hussey. I agree with all the stuff he says for the most part. Esther Perel, Jillian Tarecki, like the alignment of those people with my advice is the same with a slightly different perspective and emotional attunement to what it is we're saying and how we're getting it across. But realistically, Esther Perel is huge on you date for connection, not chemistry. Right. And this is why you have to take your chemistry and you have to hold it back consciously and realize, okay, I'm attracted to this person. And here's a misconception. People are like, well, I'm supposed to change my type. What do I attract the wrong person? I'm like, no, you attract who you attract. If you like tall, dark, and handsome, you're not going to go for short, fat, and ugly. I mean, let's be real. Right. But it's who you
Which I've
keep.
thought about.
What you thought about? I mean,
I've
Danny
thought about.
DeVito
Maybe
is
that's what
probably
I need to do
available. I
is
don't know.
look for a 5'5" balding man who's like
There you go.
75. Like
There you
maybe that
go.
would be the right person for me.
You just described a turtle. You want an old turtle. I mean,
Right. Is that what I need to do in order to
right,
be in a safe relationship, not toxic?
right. I mean, all he needs is a boat, and you got the perfect picture.
Right.
But for real though, it's who you keep that's the problem, not who you attract. Because, like I said, there's a lot of secure men out there and a lot of secure women, and they're going to not stimulate you in the way that you oftentimes want. Particularly if you're coming out of a relationship where you've been emotionally discarded, you want more than anything, and this is the issue, is the women want more than anything the emotional attention. They want to feel what they didn't feel in the relationship. And they think if I feel it with somebody in the beginning that this person, and I hear it every day, you've probably even said this, like I feel like this person makes me feel alive. They make me feel wanted. They make me feel valuable. He listens to me. He's paying attention.
Yeah, I've never had that.
Okay. Like he asks follow-up questions. For the love of God,
Oh,
that's all it takes.
right, right, right. Do you know the comedian Marcelo Hernandez?
I've heard, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like, how do these girls get all these guys? He just asked follow-up questions. What are you talking about?
Right, right. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
So what I hear you say really is your advice for women, and I'm probably going to screw this up. You'll say it much better than me, but women need to take their time
yeah.
because it's and stop looking for the chemistry, the feelings.
Let
It's
me
the
tell you,
connection. And I saw a
100%.
post, I don't know how recent it was. I think it was in the last week where you spoke, and it wasn't the first time, but you spoke very strongly on the subject of that it's important to have the same values.
Oh yeah, huge, huge.
And that's part of the connection and not the chemistry.
That is the connection.
Right.
When you're looking for a partner, and this is the thing, men and women have different roles in a relationship. We don't need to get into masculine, feminine, whatever. They
Right,
just
right.
do. We bring different things. Men do not want what women want in relationship. Women do not want what men want. There's a difference there, and it's for a reason. Call it what it is. But when you're looking to, as a woman, dating, and I tell women, I'm like, you've in essence got it easy, but you've also got it hard. The hard part is you've got to get in front, you've got to get a lot of personalities across the table. You've got to get in front of a lot of guys. The easy part is you just get to show up and you get to show and you get to let the man decide if he's for you or not by letting him show you who he is. And then once he shows you if he's going to show up, is he going to plan the dates? Is he going to lead emotionally? Emotional leadership is the new leadership. Men lose this. So like, oh, women want a leader. They want someone who's going to make the plans and like take control. It's like, yeah, well, sure. But if you don't have emotional leadership, you've got nothing of real value for her.
Explain that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Emotional leadership is he is going to take the risk of being a little bit vulnerable first.
Okay.
Emotional leadership means that he is going to be more stable than you are, full stop, no questions at all. The insecure men will say, what is she supposed to? What if she abuses me? What happens if she says mean things to me? And I'm like, grow
Yeah.
a pair of balls.
It's such an ick. It's such a horrible
It's like,
ick.
okay, it's like, well, now we'll pack your lunchbox and you
That's
can go to
right.
school. Don't forget your blankie.
Right. Right. Go.
It's like it makes me want to just punch these guys because I'm like, it's like you can't handle some mean words. It's
Oh,
like take
that's
emotional control of the situation, draw a boundary, say, listen, sweetheart, it is not okay if you call names. It is not, I will not stay if there's going to be elevated tone. I won't stay through screaming. Get control of yourself. I'm going to be back in 5 minutes. We'll continue this conversation. That's emotional leadership. It's
yes.
also having boundaries, but not defending, deflecting, projecting back to her, just throwing darts back at her. It's having control over your own emotions and not allowing your partner's emotional state to be a threat to his nervous system.
So it's that going back to what we talked about at the beginning, a
Yeah.
regulated nervous system.
Regulated, 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 regulated. And if a man can't lead with an emotionally regulated nervous system, he cannot be in a relationship. Not 100% of the time, all the time. We're human,
Okay, well, there you
but
go.
most of the time. Right.
Okay, I think men and women need to hear this
Mhm.
because I think men get confused about what leadership means. It doesn't
100%.
mean having a big ego. It doesn't mean saying this, it's my way or the highway. It's
No.
about
It's about
listening.
really saying your world is emotionally burning down. It's like, sweetheart, I get it. Tell me what's going on. I'm here
Yeah,
for you. Right. It's about the world is actually burning down. Like, baby, I got this. This is what we're going to do.
it's
Don't
what
worry.
every woman wants
And
to
you can
hear.
run around screaming with your hair on fire. He's like, we got this. Here's some water. We're good. Come with me. Right.
Totally.
It's about having the emotional calmness and not taking anything as a effect on him. And it's understanding and digging into questions and getting curious, even when you're elevated emotionally. And I've had this, walking on the street with my partner and like we're having a conversation. Next thing you know, like she's like yelling in the middle of the street, and I'm like, what is going on right now? I'm like, I'm like, you're clearly upset. I'm like, why don't we like just take a minute? Let's keep walking. Like, let's just calm down. And then give her maybe 15, 20, maybe half an hour of walking, cool the emotions, double check in. Like, tell me what's going on. Your emotions don't seem to be matching what you're talking about. Like, what else is happening inside? That's emotional leadership.
That's beautiful.
And if
Yeah.
a man can't do that, then a woman can't trust him. Because if you can't trust that your man can handle his own emotions with you, can you trust he can handle his emotions with anybody else or handle anything else in his life? Because emotional control and emotional intelligence is more important than IQ. The book Emotional Intelligence is a great book explaining all of that.
And it goes back to what you talk about also. Women, you don't say it like this, but women want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And men need to give us that place of safe.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means, but that emotional leadership is the example of making a
Yep.
woman feel safe. And when
Emotional
you're
protection is the new
right, and when
protection.
you're in a relationship with somebody, let's just say, because we brought this up, a dismissive avoidant, it's nearly impossible, because I've experienced it, to feel
Mhm.
safe in that relationship. And
Right.
it's a very, 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 very scary place to be.
Of course.
I had
Emotional
never experienced it.
the safety, which you should get from your child when you're a child, from your parents, how you get safety in self and you learn to trust your own state of being is when your parents are there to co-regulate with you through the feelings of fear, anger, frustration, sadness, joy. They're there with you. Okay. And so you have to be safe and learn to regulate your emotions on your own. That's part of being secure. But in relationship, and particularly for a woman, because women's feelings, they change often. They vary, right? They come and go quickly and they change often. That's the reality of it. You guys have a hormone cycle that men just do not have. So men hold the burden and the responsibility of showing up emotionally stable because women have the ability to be up and down. But you're bringing your emotional state as what we want. We want your emotions. We want your emotional connection. We want your emotional attentiveness. We want your compassion and your understanding and your acceptance. But that's not free. It's not free in the sense that you cannot have all the good with none of the bad of it, which means there might be some volatility. You can't have just the good vibes only life. That's not real. That's what the avoidant will want. They'll be like, I just want someone that doesn't have drama, someone who makes my life easier. If it was right, it would be easy. It's BS, you know?
Explain that, because I have heard a lot of younger girls say that, well, I broke up with him because,
No.
it was what you just said. Not that it was boring, but it was just, it
Yeah.
doesn't, the vibes aren't there.
Yeah, if the vibe's not there, right. And there's also a misconception that men are the avoidance. I probably coach 50% of the women I coach are anxious avoidant.
I sometimes think that.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
avoidant
oh my
women are
God, am
very
I the
common.
avoidant?
Yeah. Yeah, and this would be the idea that they only want good vibes only. It's like, well, what kind of blessed life do you have that you don't have to deal with any stress, that there are no conflicts that need to be resolved, you know?
Right. And I hear people also say like, well, it's okay if I have drama as the woman, but he can't have any drama. How do you regulate that?
Well, you don't regulate it, you call it what it is, which is toxic.
Right. And don't you think that if within like 2 or 3 months, even
Right.
within a month, if you see something about the person you're dating,
Mm,
isn't it smart to think, well, this isn't going to change unless this person wants to change? Because
right.
it is hard to change who people are at their core unless they want to do the work. And I've often said to my friends and to other people that I'm very close to that what you see is what you got. Like I knew.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay, so tell me where I'm wrong, where I'm misunderstanding this, and how that can change. That's why I wanted you to explain that.
So there's three aspects to that make up who you are. There's temperament, personality, and attachment. Attachment, anxious, avoidant, fully changeable. Okay, but they have to want to do the work on their own, right? And then I'll talk about the women who say like I can bring the drama, he can't have any. I'm going to speak to that because that's a major red flag, and typically that's an anxious attachment style that needs to be. That's a major red flag. It's a sign of an insecure woman and emotional immaturity. But I'll dive into that in a second. Attachment can be fully changed, but the person has to want to and be doing what needs to be done on their own. 70%, in my opinion, needs to be done outside the relationship on your own time, even if you're in a relationship.
Mhm.
70% on your own. Nervous system regulation, healthy habits, auto regulation, healthy self regulation, seeing a therapist or a coach, healthy routine, taking care of your nervous system and your health. That's on you. 30% in relationship. If you're anxious, that means you're staying apart from your partner when you have anxiety and not using them to co-regulate with you when you should be regulating on your own. Co-regulation is important in a relationship in certain aspects, but not as a necessity for you to be okay. If you're not okay on your own and you can't resource your sense of safety in self alone, you cannot depend on your partner for it. This is for the avoidant and the anxious person.
That
Okay.
that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that needs to happen. 70% on your own, 30% in relationship. And for the avoidant person, same thing. They need to learn to stay through the anxiety when there is closeness and stay and co-regulate with their partner and realize that their partner is safe. They're not going to be abandoned. And then when it kind of calms down and chills out, then they realize, okay, I don't have to disconnect to regulate. I can stay connected to regulate, right? You're like freaking out right now.
Yeah,
You're
I need to work with you.
like,
Yeah, that's what happens because I have this fear of abandonment. So as soon as I get close to somebody, I'm like, ah, yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah,
funny because the anxious and the avoidant really have the same fear of abandonment. It's just a little bit different, right? As an avoidant person, an anxious avoidant, you fear that if you get too close, the person will leave you. You'll be abandoned from closeness. The anxious person says, when they're not with me, I feel like they're just never going to come back. They're just going to leave me. If they're not with me, they're clearly talking to somebody else.
mm,
Right. So that's that. So attachment can change personality, and I like the Big Five personality test because it's realistically it's the most culturally unbiased, the best test out there. Big Five. Understandmyself.com is a great website.
okay,
Anyway, the personality, there's 10 subcategories to it, which I get my clients to take this test usually. About three of the categories of personality are changeable. So some
okay,
change. For example, introversion, extroversion can change as we age. Compassion can kind of change. You get more compassionate as we age, the more experiences you have. And volatility, withdrawal can also change a little bit as again you kind of regulate. That's part of an attachment thing. Whereas certain things like industriousness, that's not going to change. That's pretty locked in. That's one of the aspects of personality. And then we look at temperament. Temperament is locked in, and there's 9 aspects of temperament. That's what you really want to pay attention to when you meet someone. You want to lean into, and when I'm working with my clients, getting them to ask questions, I'm like, find out what the man's temperament is, find out what his personality is. And I'd get them to take the Big Five personality test because you can get your partner to take it. It connects them. It's a fun tool. You can say, how do we mesh on personality? You kind of joke about it because it gives you compatibility. And it's a
yeah,
serious thing, right? So going back to your question in the past about what is it like what conscious dating and what does that look like? It's about understanding values, lifestyle. What is your biorhythm? What does your regularity look like? Do you both like routine, or is one completely discombobulated? The other one is like militaristic regimed. What is your energy level like? As far as, are you high energy? I'm low energy. Like I don't want to do anything and you want to hike a mountain. That might not be a fun relationship.
Right.
right? Because we're going to be doing different things all the time. It's going to be a disconnect. So lifestyle alignment, future goals alignment, family alignment as far as values, if you want to have kids. And if you don't want to have kids, what does companionship look like to you? I even go into defining when you ask someone, well, what are your three core values? If I say loyalty is a value, well, what does loyalty mean to you? What does it mean to me? There might be a difference there.
Right.
So really getting specific and digging deep into the questions of who the person is, because who the person is who you fall in love with or choose to love rather. And I say this, you don't fall in love, you choose to be in love. You choose to love the person that you know well enough that everything about them, even the things that aren't awesome, you choose to have in your life fully.
It's going back to that connection,
That's connection.
right? That's the whole connection, and the values are part of that connection.
Yeah.
And I think that, and tell me if I'm wrong, that I think that a lot of people overlook the connection and go back to what we talked about at the beginning is the chemistry. And that's
Yeah.
where the quote unquote problems may start because we're
Yeah.
not looking at the right things to give us a long-term relationship. And I think that, I personally would love something incredibly boring right now, maybe, haha.
Well, but
But
boring is again, we're talking not about a boring man, right? I would consider myself neurologically boring, but
me too.
life-wise very exciting. I love the spontaneous trips. I ride a chopped Harley. I mean, I like supercars. I like trips. Like I like fun stuff. I like last minute trips. I like random risky stuff. Like whatever. Let's do it. But emotionally, I'm like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I'll have the deep conversations, but I'm not going to create a fight for no reason. If I see you talking to a random guy or I see a text pop up from a guy on your phone, I'm not going to lose my mind. I'm going to wait for you to tell me who it is because I inherently trust you until I have a reason to not trust you because I'm
Mm,
secure. I'm not
right.
going to create a problem when there's no reason to be a problem. I'm not going to get defensive simply because my ego is being hit and I'm the little boy with a lunchbox that has to defend myself because I got
Mm,
my little old feelings hurt. I'm a grown ass man and I can manage my emotional state. And if I have a question about something, I'll bring it up saying, oh, hey, who was that? Who's that I saw on the phone? And if I get jealous because I'm a man and I would probably get a little territorial, I'm going to poke fun at you and kind of, make it twist it into something and use humor, which is a great thing to do for a secure person, a secure man. Use humor to draw light to the situation without making it feel like you did anything wrong. Because if a man gives you attention and you're attractive, men should date within their security clearance, meaning the level of security you have should dictate how attractive of a woman you date. Because if you're a guy and you're dating a really attractive woman, you've got to be secure because she's going to get a lot of attention, and you better
Right.
be secure with yourself, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it's like it's how you deal with these things as a man that dictates the safety of the relationship and how the woman shows up realistically.
If you're in a relationship and something feels off, you've
Yeah.
been questioning it. Is that so? I have that question for you. How do you know if you're questioning a bunch of things in a relationship?
Yeah.
Should you just trust your gut and say, this isn't for me? It just doesn't feel right. And
Hmm.
if you stay too long in a relationship like that, will it eventually become toxic? I know this is a lot of probably nuanced answers and questions.
Massive question right at the end here. Huge question.
I know.
So
I'm
this
sorry.
is really the difference between intuition and anxiety, and it's really common, particularly for women. The real defining factor is anxiety is going to give you a thought of a fear of a future event, or it's going to be resonant of something that happened in the past.
Okay.
Trust would be a big one, right?
Okay.
If you've been cheated on and he does something and you think like, oh my gosh, I know he's cheating on me. I think this and this and this, that might be anxiety, not intuition. Intuition is the noticing of the subtle nuances, the subtle shifts in a pattern of behavior, the change in texting tone frequency, that the cadence of the relationship has just changed all of a sudden. It's the noticing of subtle things. And intuition is that little voice inside that notices what's happening when you're present, not thinking about a past event and not thinking about what you fear is going to happen in the future.
Mm,
It's the little voice, it's the feeling that you get inside when you wake up in the morning and your life is pretty calm. And the intuition is usually not a result of a huge thing you see because that's obvious. Intuition is the noticing of the subtle changes in behavior with a partner.
Hmm.
For example, for the women that have been cheated on, they know if they're in tune with their intuition when it's happening because it's almost like there is a glass wall between you and the
Oh, yeah.
partner. He's there, but it's like things are not getting through. He's walled off a little bit. He's physically present, but he's emotionally walled himself off from you. And although you may not have any evidence of it, you feel something isn't right. That's intuition.
And do you suggest that women trust their
Mm.
intuition?
100%. One of the best indicators for future marriage success is, oddly enough, it's not how connected you are, it's your intuition, how strong your intuition is for that person. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
it
quite interesting.
goes back to, do I follow my heart? Do I follow my head? I think it's an REO Speedwagon song. But, what do you follow? Because
Yeah,
those two are often so many songs about feeling torn, right? Between your
yeah.
head and your heart.
It's got to be a
As
combination of things,
that's
realistically.
that's really hard, Chris.
I know. I know. Because you can't ignore the facts and just go with your heart, quote unquote, right? And really, an emotion is energy in motion. And it is realistically when you are integrated, when you're connected, when you're in your feminine, your head and your heart are connected.
Mhm.
Jody. So you do not have to use one or the other. That's a misconception. Your head and your heart are connected. They're communicating with each other. You're observing everything as a whole. You're not having to compartmentalize.
Beautiful.
There's this idea that you have to choose with one or the other. It's like, well, why not both? Because they should have a conversation.
I agree. I think that would be the
Yeah.
most symbiotic, beautiful relationship if we could all do that.
Yeah. As humans, we are greater than the sum of our parts. So
Yes.
compartmentalizing things and saying, I have to choose with this or with this denies the humanity of us and says we have to be one or the other. We're a whole. Live that way.
I love the way you explain things and are just so honest with us in the way you give advice
Mm.
and can really explain it in, 3 or 5 minutes. And I've learned so much from today from listening to you, following you. And I remember when we first started talking, you said you had like 200 followers or something like that. And all of a sudden you just started talking
I had
more freely. Tell
85.
me, tell me
Sep-
about that.
September 10th, I had 85 followers. And then we went to, well, we just hit quarter million in 15 weeks. 100% organic. Yeah, and it was really interesting and it was one of these things where I've been through a lot. So I speak from experience, not just academically and clinically, but just life experience. A
No,
lot.
I feel that. I feel that.
Right. And I mean, I'm almost 50, so I've lived lives, right?
Oh, please
47.
talk to me at 65.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I speak from experience. So all of my content, it resonates as like soulful and authentic. It's because I've lived it all, even on the giving and receiving end of pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Right. My default is anxious attachment, not severe, but mild. I consider myself quite secure now and always, again, like we talked about, a journey.
Right.
But yeah, when I speak about things, like I actually feel it. It's not a textbook conversation. And when I'm coaching people, it's from my own experiences as well as the knowledge that I've gained over the decades of working with hundreds of thousands of patients in my practice, being married for 14 years, divorced, dating around the world afterwards. I mean, the lives I've lived, having to get into a
Sure.
relationship in my mid 40s again, what the new dating world looks like. So when dating coaching is half of my program with women, half of what I do. I've had to date in my mid 40s. I know what it's like, you know.
I was going to ask you about the dating, but I
Yeah.
don't know if you have enough time.
I do
Or,
have sessions now, unfortunately. Yeah, we
okay.
maybe have to get another one and
No,
reconnect.
because I would like to talk about the dating,
Yeah.
because I think there's so many women 50 and
Mm.
over that are newly divorced
Oh yeah.
and do need a lot of help and maybe
Yeah.
have not unburdened themselves with what really went on in their childhood,
Yeah.
etc. So,
Hmm.
Chris, thank you so much for being on the show. I really
Yeah, it's
enjoyed
fun.
having you, and of course, always learning from you. Where can our listeners find you and reach out to you?
My primary modality is Instagram. It's like the new yellow pages for the planet. It's at Evolved by Chris. And there's a link in our bio. We have a school community, and then I'm always taking clients as long as I have space to work with me in the private setting one-on-one.
Wonderful. Thank you. You'll be hearing from me, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh, thank you so much for being on the show, and
Yeah, you're
I'll talk
welcome.
to you soon. Hopefully, you'll be back with more information.
Love to. Beautiful.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining me in this episode of Fearlessly Authentic. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Share this with your friends. We are a top 5% globally rated podcast, and that's all because of you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. There was so much information here from Chris. I hope you share it with all of your friends and people that you know need to hear this. And until next week, go have your most fearlessly authentic week. Bye-bye.